Hey guys, for this video, we're just going to be doing a color refresh and redoing her roots and her highlights around her face and creating this beautiful, kind of like a copper, what is it? Cowboy copper color. Let's get into it. We're going to start the service with Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with 20 volume and Olaplex and doing her highlights really fine around her face. We always pack these in back to back to back, weave out some of her natural so that it grows out a little bit softer and blends a little bit more instead of feeling like she has the whole hairline is just platinum. So you can see here that we're weaving it, and then if there's a little area where I need to swish it through the dark, I just turn my brush over and just get those darker pieces that were the previous weaved out hair. I normally go through and do a really fine weave, and I try really cautiously to not go through any previous red that we have done, because that's just going to turn more orange and it's not going to be the nice bright blonde that we want. So try to make sure that if there's any red in the hair from the red half of her head, that you're pulling that hair back. I also want to say that I have tried doing this service when I tried doing the color application part first and then come back and doing the foil, and holy cow, that is just so difficult because, you know, obviously you're wanting to have like a really bright blonde, and you have to be very cautious of the ends of the hair, because if they touch the dark color that you have in the back half of the head that you've already applied, then the ends of the hair are going to get tainted. So it's so much easier to go through and do the foils first, because everything is just so much cleaner and neater, and you can make sure that you can isolate the blonde hair a lot better than the other way, because the way that you have to do it, if you go through and do the all over color first, you have to line around the perimeter of the red with foil or like saran wrap or something, and then you have to be able to foil the hair and pin it back, and then it just makes it difficult. So I've found that going through and doing the foils first around the hairline is so much easier. And if you're worried that it's going to be sitting for too long, I know her hair, we're able to do 20 volume. I'm also using Olaplex and slightly watering it down. So it's not necessarily like a strong 20 volume, where it probably is more like, you know, 12, 10, 15 volume or something like that. So if you're doing this on a client for the first time and you're not sure how, like what developer to use, I would maybe start with 10 volume, and because this is going to sit on her hair for a while and process along with the rest of her hair after we do the whole color application. Sometimes you can pull the foils out if you need to, but again, then when you go to wash the hair, it just makes it hard. You can't separate, you can't pull the foils forward, because then the bleach is exposed. You don't want to get in it into the eyes. It's just, you know, use a gentle bleach and just let it sit, and it should be fine. So we're going to go through and finish doing these foils right up here for her money piece. And again, hitting the roots as close as we can, flipping the brush over and painting those dark weaves that were from the previous time that we had done our hair. So yeah, this is how we do our hairline foils to get a really nice bright blonde around her face. And then after this, we'll go through and do our standard root retouch application, and then we will run it through the ends of her hair. All right, we're finishing up our facial framing money piece application. This is gonna sit and process for the whole length of the service. So now we're gonna go back and mix our color for the red, and we're gonna chat about that for a few minutes. Okay, I'm about to color my client's hair. Normally before, like the whole time, we've been doing like copper color for her hair. The last time we colored her hair, she wanted to do like more of a deeper red color. It looks stunning on her. But now that we're coming into fall, she wants to be more copper instead of doing like as deep and strong of a red color that we did. So previously the color that we had used was 668 with like a quarter of the 777. I think today we're just gonna do half and half. So I'm gonna do half 668 and then half 777 to not be so red, but also not be like super coppery, just like a nice in the middle. And also I'm using the Schwarzkopf Agora Royal Permanent Color Line, and I'm gonna use 30 volume. All right, so we're doing half and half of these two together, the 668 and 777. And I will say, after the whole end result and everything, this is such a pretty combination of these two equally put together, because I'm going to insert a picture from the last time that we did her hair where it was the majority 668 and just like a quarter of the 777. Her hair was red and it was beautiful on her, and it actually looked so much darker. But it was a gorgeous color. But this combination that we're doing right here, it's like the perfect cowboy copper if you're looking for a color formulation for that. Okay, and just like with our standard color application, we're gonna go through and just do the perimeter first and make sure that's on. And I'm honestly not too careful about making sure I'm not going underneath the foil. I'm actually okay with it if it goes underneath the foil and kind of bleeds into her bleach, which it honestly never has, so don't feel like you have to be like super careful and cautious, because if it does, I feel like it just gives, from the bright blonde to the red, I feel like it gives it a little bit more of like a soft shadow if it touches it. So it hasn't, but just know, like, if it does, it's okay. So yeah, we're gonna go through and do the perimeter and then go through and do like down the center. I do my root retouch applications a little bit different than I don't do like the standard like 4 like quadrants. And also you'll notice that I'm gonna go through, and man, I slapped this color on heavy. I practically used 2 full tubes of color on her head because I'm not being stingy with my color. I want to make sure that this has good coverage. She does have extremely thick hair, but also I want to make sure everything blends really good. There's no line of demarcation from the last time we colored her hair. Like, I just want to make sure like this color's like slathered on nice and thick. So you'll notice that I'm just basically, I'm taking this basically to the top of her ear, and then I'm going to flip back over to the other side. The reason for that is because I don't want to take like a whole, maybe 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes to do the half of her head and then flip over and do the other half of her head. And then, color has a whole lifting and depositing process. And what if this side is already lifting and depositing before I even get to that side? Like, then what if that side is more vibrant? Or my anxiety will just go crazy, you guys. So I will go through and basically make sure that I have the top, like maybe not all the way down to the top of the ears, but especially when we're dealing with red or like a copper color. If it's just like a brown or something, like I'm not as worried about it. But when it's something that's like vibrant like this, I do worry and make sure, like, I don't want to have hot roots or that kind of thing. So I want to make sure that both sides have close to even processing time. So you'll notice that I'm basically bringing this back pretty far to the back half of the head. And essentially when I finish my application through the top section, now all I have is the nape of the neck. That's my like third last section that I have. And I feel like it's so much faster than doing 4 full sections. all you have to do is just extend the top section a little bit further over to the back instead of doing, you know, four equal quadrants. Just take the two front sections and extend them to the back half of the head. And then it's so much faster to apply it that way than to now have to go back and start from the top and work your way down in the two back sections. I don't know. To me, it just saves a lot more time. It's a lot faster. Maybe it doesn't look as clean or it's not as neat because you're not parting the hair in the four sections. I don't know, whatever. But I've just found that it's so much faster to do that. And then now all I have to do is come back and do this really do one full section in this back underneath part instead of doing another two full sections in the back half. So that's the way that I've found that I like doing my color. It's a lot faster. I feel like it's an even application, and you'll see here, I can just easily go straight across the whole back instead of finishing one whole back section and then coming back to the top again and then doing a whole nother back section. So yeah, I feel like this is a lot better. You can see that I'm not just hitting the roots. I'm going down probably, maybe a few inches, 2 inches or so beyond the line of demarcation. And I just want to make sure that she has good coverage. Again, we are going to be bringing the color down and blending into her, not all the way dragging it down through the ends, but we're going to let this sit for about 30 minutes and then drag it down through the ends. And you'll see here that I'm leaving her ends out. And that's because I want her hair to have a little bit of dimension, and you'll see that she does have some really pretty dimension through the ends of her hair. Okay, once we get back to the shampoo bowl, I water the ends just slightly, and then I drag the color through the ends and let that sit for about 5 minutes because I do want to refill the hair and make it more vibrant and everything. I don't want to not drag the color through the ends and then they look dull in comparison. So I do pull color through for the last 5 to 7 minutes or so. All right, so for washing her hair out, you guys need to make sure that you're using cold water, frigid, cold, not lukewarm. You're going to bleed the color out. We want to make sure this stays vibrant, and make sure you tell your client, as cold as I'm washing your hair, this is how cold you need to be washing your hair at home, because her blonde stays pretty blonde up front. Maybe there's a little bit of bleeding that comes, onto her hair. That's kind of going to happen regardless, but my reds know you better wash your hair with cold, ice cold, frigid, as cold as you can stand water to make sure that the color stays vibrant, the color doesn't fade, and also that way your blonde doesn't go pink. Because if you use too hot of water, it's going to end up going pink. And when they complain about it, I say, hey, I've had bright copper hair. I know how it is, but it does make a difference. Use cold water, or don't come complaining to me when your color fades out and say that the color's fading. Okay, bye. Okay, here's the end. Look at how pretty her color blends perfectly. Isn't this just the perfect cowboy copper? Truly just perfect between red and copper, but not too copper, not too red, just a nice in between. And there's her money piece. And look at how pretty the ends are. You can see that dimension with the copper kind of coming through. I think that looks so pretty. And these are for my Instagram stories, you guys. If you want to follow me over on Instagram, I would love to see you there. You can follow me at Modern Blonde by Christy. And look at that money piece is just banging, baby. And we were like, this is how a baddie with fresh hair needs to walk, with that swish, swishing her hair back and forth. Doot, 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 doot. Who am I, baddie with this badass bitch hair? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.